Welcome to howtopam. Let's talk Linux, the channel that promotes professional computing with free open source software, and we're helping FOSS users find the answer. In this video, I'm going to show you how to pimp out your Xfce panel. You can get it in a look like this quite easily. What you need to do is check the properties on your panel and see the size. The size here is 36 pixels. So check your properties and then let's go ahead and pimp these panels out. First thing we're going to do is open up GIMP so that we have an image editor. Now you also want to know the resolution of your screen. And if you're not sure what resolution you're running, you could easily go and check your display. Go to Configure Display, and you can see that you have your resolution mentioned here. So we are 1920 in width. The other way to do that is to open up a terminal and just put in the command Xrand-R. And you can see that we have, with the asterisks here, this is resolution we're running at, 1920. So once you've got GIMP open, let's start a new file. And it's picked up the width of my display here, but in height, we only want to be, for this image, the height of our panel, which is 36. And now we don't need a background color to that, but we could, or you can choose transparency and say okay to that. There is the image that will become our Xfce4 panel image. So now you need to decide on the colors that match your display, and then you need to go and change the background color to the darker view of what you're trying to create, and the front foreground color to the lighter view of what you're trying to create, something like that. Then we'll go to gradient, and we'll go in the gradient and make sure that we're looking for a gradient that will give us foreground to background, which is right here. So let's choose that. And now, if you like, you click in the top corner of your image and pull that gradient. Now notice, when you move the gradient different ways, it changes the way the colors. So move that around until you get something that you're looking for. Now, if that doesn't work for you, in the top corner there, go and say undo that gradient and go back to gradient, and let's enlarge our image to 100% so that we can see it here. And let's click on the top of this image and then just drag it down. Now you notice, you see how the color changes. Now if you want to go straight so that you don't get a crooked gradient here, hold down the key, and that will allow you to find the straight increment, and then move up on your gradient to the color that you'd be satisfied with and the pattern you're trying to achieve, and let go of the mouth. Now that's about all there is to it. If you'd like another color, you can go with the blues, and again choose the foreground to background and click on your image and hold the control key down. You'll notice the control key works on 15-degree increments. So as long as you have the control key held down, you can find it fairly straight. And then go up onto your image to the position that you would like to get the color blend you want from your gradient. Now, of course, you can always undo that and redo it if it didn't get on the angle that you want. And again, you may want to increase the size so it's easier to see what's going on. And again, if you're not satisfied, undo that, change your colors, and give it another shot. Okay, whatever your desktop wallpaper is, you can create a nice looking gradient with that type of thing. Play around with them a little bit. You may want to try a different type here. You could go down to the chrome if you like, something like that. And then you don't need to choose colors on this one, and you can hold the control key down and pull that chrome down, and you can see how that gives you a kind of look there. If you're not satisfied with that one, undo that and try here's a deep sea. That would give you the color blue. By playing with these gradients, you can make an interesting looking image that you can use for the background on your Xfce4 panel that will give you a cool look. Here's one here, rounded edge. If you like the 3D look, again, click on your image, hold the control key down and pull that down to make sure you cover the whole width of your image, release it and say enter to that. And if you like, you could increase that 200% and you can see the 3D. Now, if you go back to 67%, take select none, go to view and get rid of these border around there. And there you can see what you have created there. Move it up to 100% and you can really see the rounded portion there. Now, if you're not happy with that, we can go back, we can choose gradient again, look for something else. Here's an interesting one. Again, click on the edge of it and hold the control key down so that you can stay straight. Notice the further you go down, the different colors. Again, you get the idea. This is how we make the fancy image that this is a 3 bars will become your border image or your panel image, and lots of interesting things there to do with that. What I do is I choose the colors of my wallpaper with the pencil tool here. I take the light and the dark colors and then I use the gradient that is background to foreground or foreground to background. You can see here, foreground to background. I choose that and then click on the top, hold the control key down and bring that down to what I would like to have. And then there you have it right there. So many interesting things you can do to create an image that can be used as the background image on your panel. If your panel is wider than 36, go ahead and make your image 40 or 44, whatever the pixels of your panel. And then when you load it as your panel image, you will have that style and effect. Now, another thing we can do, if you're looking to make it a little more fancy, as we can go back down to 67% so we can see it, we could add a layer of transparency. Then we could take the rectangular select and with that draw out a selected rectangle over your image. If you like to try to get that right on your image there, make sure we get the whole thing. Now we've got that on our image there. Now if we go here and we go to select, we'll choose shrink and let's shrink that by 5. Okay, we have it shrunk there by 5. If you need a little larger, go ahead and increase that so that you can see your shrink lines here. Then go back to select, choose border and choose feather style and choose the color that you might like on the perimeter of your border. Now you may like just to have the dark color. Then go to the paint can and you'll notice here if I increase, you'll notice we have a few lines here. Try to just go in the outer line and shrink that back down. You could say select none and you see that adds a little more interest to your image. So if we remove the show layer boundary, we get rid of that line. Now you see you have some interesting effects in your image. Now let's just see what that looks like. Let's export that. Give it a name. My panel. Okay, call it my panel. Put it on your desktop if you like and export that. Say export to that. Now let's move this out of the way. Let's go up here. Let's go to the panel. Let's go to panel preferences. Let's go to appearance. Let's say that we're on a background image. Okay, we want to be on a background image. Let's go get an image from the desktop, the one that we looked at. There it is there. Let's put it up there. Say okay to that. And there you go. There is your pimped out panel image. You can do the same to the bottom one here if you like. It's that simple. You can see this color doesn't match my desktop too much, but you want to use colors that blend in with your background image. And it's as simple as that. And you'll have yourself a spiffy looking Xfce4 panel on your desktop to match your desktop wallpaper. Of course, no Xfce4 panel tutorial would be complete without showing you a little bit about how to create your own wallpaper. If we're talking about creating some wallpaper, most of you are quite familiar with some of the tools to make your own wallpaper, to pimp out your Xfce4 desktop. Some of you like lots of color, some of you don't like much color at all. That's entirely up to you. But if you want something that's got lots of colors, lots of designs, that's easy enough to do. I will show you here quickly about how you can create something like that, or like that, or that, perhaps, or something like that, something like that, or like that, something like that. I'll show you quickly here how you can create something like that for yourself, and just briefly I will show you how it's done, and then you too can have desktop wallpapers of your own design. Is open up GIMP. That's our GNU image editing program. And now when you open up GIMP, you'll have to start a new file, and when you open GIMP, it should give you the size of your display here. If it does not, you need to go to your display in the menu there and find out what size. You'll have to make your wallpaper this size, the size that your display is currently set at. And we have that right here. GIMP chose that automatically. So now when we're making a new file in GIMP, we can choose a background color or a foreground color, or just white or transparency. Let's start with something that is transparent and say okay to that. That's going to be the back of your wallpaper. You'll notice it's smaller than your screen, but you'll also notice down here it's only showing at 66.7%. So what are we going to do? To start with, maybe you like some color and some shapes. So it's pretty simple. We could take and paint the background black if you like. For starters, just like that. Then we could add a new layer and make sure the layer is transparent and say okay to that. Then we could take a circle tool if you like. Now if you want shapes that are off only half a circle, there are many ways to do this. Many people take the path tool and draw a path, but it's very hard to get a nice symmetrical arc that way. So I'll show you a quick way here. Go down to maybe 50% or even 25% if you like. Then take your elliptical tool and create an ellipse. Once you've shrunk your image down to 25%, you can work on it like that. If you don't want it to go 50%, slide that up a little bit. Then grab a color of your choice. Maybe something in an orange would be satisfactory. Say okay to that. Choose the paint can. Put some orange in there. Say, if you like, you could maybe change the opacity a bit, and you can see how the color changes slightly while you're changing the opacity. So sometimes using the change of opacity will be satisfactory. If you've noticed you can't get the results you want here, switch back to your background layer. Choose a lighter color maybe for your background. Say okay to that. Change your background color. First we must unselect this here. Change to the background. Repaint your background color. Go back to the other layer. You can take the select tool, select that again. Now change the opacity on it. And you can see how the opacity there changes. Now, that's another thing you can do if you like. With that shape there, you could put your orange color back there and change the background color to a little lighter orange, and then you could go to gradient, and you could choose linear gradient and go foreground to background, RGB. That might be more of what you're looking for. All sorts of different things you can do with that. Again, if you don't like that, undo that step. We have the orange color there. Let's unselect that, and let's go ahead on this layer, and you might want to put another layer in. Make sure it's transparent. Change the color to another color, maybe purple, and take your elliptical tool and do likewise again. Something like that. Paint that area, and then say select none to that. Now, if you would like, you could put another layer on, transparent, and then we could take a covering layer, maybe, and you can see how as we change the opacity, our colors show up in there. Now if you like to add more color to that and you're satisfied with that blue, when you get the shade that you want, then we can go ahead and go down to the other layer and add a new layer below that. Make sure it's transparent. If you want, we could turn this layer off. We have a new layer on here. Let's take our elliptical tool and we could put a circle in here. So let's get a nice color for that. Maybe you want some green on that, and you could go ahead and paint in that. Now you'll notice that we can't see the purple through the green. Maybe you want to change the opacity of that green, just enough that you can see the purple through there. Another interesting thing we can do is we could add a border to that green, and we could put a nice border of maybe 15 and make sure it's feathered. Say okay to that. Now you could put a nice color on that, something that goes well with green, maybe a gray. If you can't see the lines here, increase the size enough that you can see the lines, and go ahead and paint that in there. And if you would like to make the border a little fancier as well, you can add another border on top of that border and maybe make this one quite a bit larger, 60. And then you could take another color, perhaps something, maybe the blue. No, that blue we're covering with blue, so there's a darker blue, just to show you what can be done. You see that extra border in there? Maybe you want to add a lighter color ring to that, or perhaps a darker purple. Well, that's kind of dark blue anyway, so just for illustration purposes, you can see a red in there. So let's go back down to our 25% and let's say select none to that. Now, if you like, you could put another smaller circle in here and go ahead and choose a color for that, maybe a yellow. Maybe we'll put a border on that, on the yellow. We don't need a 60. Let's go down to about a 30, and let's do a smooth edge instead of feathered. And let's go ahead and add a dark blue to that. Now you'll also notice that we have an inner section here. You could do wonderful things with these. There's a gray. Put the gray on the inner section of the border. You could. I'm not going to do that right now. Let's choose a lighter gray. And you see we can go in here and there's a lighter color. Let's say select none to that. Okay, so you've got wonderful start on that. And if we turn on our upper layer, you can see that we have the transparency there. Now, if you want, we could turn off that layer and we can maybe add a new layer, make sure it's transparent, and let's go ahead and take the free select tool and let's just draw a design. Start here somewhere, you can be off the page, start there, just make a nice design, something like that. Try to make your lines parallel to the existing lines for aesthetic purposes. Hit the enter key after you do that. Now you'll also notice that this too can have a border. So let's go ahead and go to select and let's say border. And there's a border of 30. Let's go down to about 20. And it's on smooth. Say okay to that. There's a border. Maybe you want to have a color like a black. And go ahead in that border. Make sure you have the paint can, and there. Now let's add another little border to that border for a little extra design. Okay, so let's go select and border, and let's just go half of that. Let's do 10. Smooth is all right, and let's choose a color that we can maybe see just for purposes. Let's make our drawing a little larger so we can see the lines, and let's, okay, you see that? Now let's go back down. Let's say select none to that. There, you've got that design in there. Now maybe you'd like to take the selection tool, go inside here. Maybe you'd like to put a little color in there, a dark blue maybe. I'm not too sure. Let's put that in there. Let's take the paint can. Let's fill that. Okay, now you see we've lost the view of everything, but let's go ahead and change the opacity on that. See how the opacity changed? Okay, let's say select none to that. And now let's turn on our upper level, blue. Now if you're not satisfied with that blue, you can again change the opacity, move up onto that. You can change the opacity of that a little bit more. to get something you're looking for, the right shade that you want. We can move up and go to 67%, and you see we've got a background that's starting to shape up here. Now if you'd like to add a little more to it, the sky is the limit actually when you're making your own. We could go to a Gradation blur, and we could use some blurs perhaps. You see that? Okay, so perhaps you want to do something with the blur. That's your background. You can play with these filters until you get the effect that you want. I'm just going to put a little blur on there. Let's go back up to the top here. Now there's another filter you can put on that will be in distorts here. You can go to page curl. Now when you're using page curl, make sure you have a top layer and you're on that top layer. Otherwise it will curl up some of your image. Now you will notice how our page curl ripped up our image here. And even when we turn the page curl off, our image is gone here now because page curl took that away. So maybe what we'll do is keep backing up to get out of there, get our image back. There. Okay, there's our image back. For this reason, what we really want to do maybe is add another layer here. Now we've got a layer on top. Now let's go ahead and do our page curl. Let's go ahead and go to filters and let's do our page curl, making sure we're on the new layer. There, this time it did not destroy our image underneath. Now we go to the opacity here, down a little bit on that, 64%. Let's go ahead and redo the page curl down in this corner this time. And again, let's take the opacity down to about 64%. There you go. That's what you have it. Now at any time, if you're not satisfied with some of this, you can shut off some of these layers and export the sections that you do want. Let's go ahead and export that. Let's export that into wallpaper, and let's call it the tutorial wallpaper, and let's export that as a PNG. So let's just put this out of the way. Let's go have a look here. Let's go into desktop settings, and you'll see I have some here I've been playing with. We'll be down in the T's for the tutorial. Here's ours right here, tutorial PNG. Let's click on that, and there you go. You have your desktop wallpaper. A whole bunch of shapes, whole bunch of colors. It was really quite easy, and anyone can do that just by playing with the tools as we've shown you. One thing we need here is a panel to match. You'll notice that our panels are close, but they don't quite match. How are we going to get a panel to match? Well, let's go up, open up GIMP. I'm going to show you how you can easily get a panel to match. This is your wallpaper. So if you want a panel to match, you have two options. One is to go to the scale image and break the chain, leave it to 1920 wide, but go down to 40 pixels wide for your panel and say scale that. Simple as that. You've got all your background colors. Now let's go ahead and let's export that as tutorial. Let's put a P in there for panel, and let's export that. Let's have a look at what that's like. Let's go up here, click on this, say panel preferences. Let's go to, and let's choose tutorial panel. Open that up, and you can see here is your panel. Much like if you find that the panel is too cluttered, let's do something else. We could go and undo that scale, and let's take the rectangular select tool. Let's crop a section here of the section that you would like to have your panel colors on, maybe in that section there. And let's go ahead and say image crop to selection, and then let's scale that image. Again, break the chain, and let's scale that image at 40 pixels for the height of our panel. Whatever height your panel is, you can scale the image to that. There we go. Let's go ahead and export that one as tutorial P and a small p. That's for the second one. Export that. There we go. Let's put GIMP out of the way. Let's change our panel here again. Panel preferences, appearance, background image, this one here. And there you have it. You have a panel that matches your wallpaper. It's as simple as that. So there you have it. You have ways to pimp out your Xfce4 desktop by creating your own custom wallpapers and creating your own custom panels and setting them up in there. And as I say, this is the full image. If you don't like that, turn them off and print that. If you do not like that hazy look, turn off this here panel. You'll have a fresher look, a clearer look, a crisper look. If you don't like the zigzag, turn it off and turn that back on. Maybe turn on your page curls then. You see, with all the layers we've created here, you can mix and match and change them around, turn layers on, turn layers off, and you can use the one wallpaper you designed to get many different prints out of. So I hope that this has been an interesting tutorial for you on how to pimp out your Xfce4 desktop and your panel. And if you've liked this tutorial, give us a thumbs up or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or you can join us on Twitter at howtopam at Twitter, and we will talk with you there. Thanks for watching another howtopam. Let's talk Linux. Professional computing with free open source software, where we're helping FOSS users find the answers. Tutorial by howtopam. Let's talk Linux.